Hey, it's Alex and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, freelancing. I'm making this video because it's something I needed and it's a little bit of tough but honest love. This video is going to talk about the 10 major things you need to know before you get into freelancing or commit to it as a full-time thing. If you don't know about me, I am currently a full-time freelancer as I'm part-time doing my master's and trying to pursue content creation, a mix of things. I've been freelancing for almost a year now. I've learned a few things that I kind of wish I had a heads up because freelancing is difficult to navigate, and the truth is, it is really easy to make it, but it's equally as easy to break it. If you're using some kind of platform like Fiverr where people can review you, if you are not ready and you get bad reviews, it's going to be very hard for you to build yourself back up. And if you are starting from scratch and nobody knows you and you get a bad review, you see what I'm saying? And it's not that you are not qualified, it might just be you're not ready. So let's just get right into these 10 tips and we'll dive in. My first tip for freelancing is you will have to earn your way. It'll involve a lot of long nights for probably low value when you start. Now, this kind of depends on what you're coming out of and going into. If you already have some kind of portfolio from previous jobs, references, or something to show where you can price high and people know they will receive high, then you can probably get away with coasting along, which is so great. I've always done my services on the side when my jobs encompass something entirely different. So I had to price my things really low to start getting traffic. Then once I started getting customers and clients and getting good reviews, I've started increasing my prices. If I have any suggestions for you, is to use an app. I use Toggle to track how much time I spend on a task so that I can start pricing it reasonably or figure out what's taking me so long and how to save time. It kind of depends on what the job is. Number 2, the hardest one. You will need to learn to take criticism and to not take it personally. If you're creating a video for somebody, you are writing a blog, creating a graphic, any of those things, they are going to have some kind of comment to make about it. And they might say, wow, this is amazing. And they might say, I'm happy with it. Or they might say, I don't really like the way that you completed this or you did this. Unless somebody is flat out saying,
this is horrible, you need to fix it.
If you're getting upset about any other comments, you're probably taking it too personally. For me, I take a lot of pride in what I create on my graphics. I have spent years and years and years creating graphics, but knowing what you're doing and knowing what your customer wants is two different things. And you do not get to dictate what your customer wants. You have to use what you know to produce something that your customer likes. And everybody's different. What you think is perfect, what you think is a masterpiece, might just not be something that fits them or their brand or what they're about. And that's not an attack on you. It's just that you have to figure out how to create for them. They're paying for my service. I'm not the one who gets to dictate what it looks like. You have to learn that or you are going to just have way longer days when you're dealing with the mental battle in your head. And that brings me into tip 3, which is you have to be professional in every situation. Whether or not it is someone asking you a question, it is somebody inquiring about your process, it's somebody leaving you a review, it's somebody critiquing what you've created, asking for edits, it's someone saying that what you've created is horrible. Any kind of thing, you need to be professional. And I know that some people can be rude and so out of pocket. And I know that you want to go back at them, but it's not worth it. Think about what you might lose just to get a jab at them. Consider taking the higher road or being the bigger person. You can still express your feelings while maintaining professionalism. And that is a slippery slope, but that is one you have to deal with. Say someone says something to you and it rubs you the wrong way and you want to address it. If your emotions are getting the best of you, go in your notes app, go in your journal, whatever you need, write down what you want to say to the client. Make sure no one can ever see this. Write down what you want to say to the client, then start putting in a way that is professional and taking out anything that could make you look bad. You have to protect yourself, and sometimes that means you have to be the bigger person. You represent you, so remember that, okay? You don't want a bad client to represent you. You want to represent you. And the next one is there are a lot of risks with getting screwed over. If you're using a platform like Fiverr, Upwork, Contra, things like that, they really differ on how they juggle buyers and sellers. And I'm gonna be really honest, it's sometimes more about the customer and you can get really screwed over. And if you are operating outside of that, you have to kind of figure out how to protect yourself. Unless you are putting in contracts, precautions, and you have something lined up for if somebody tries to screw you over and take your work for free, you can end up in a really bad situation. So I have already been screwed over. I've been used and abused so many times on freelancing platforms. I only work offline platforms with people I really trust. Take all the precautions you can, but my biggest piece of advice, which I've said in a couple videos, is CYA, cover your ass. When you are creating an order for someone, whether it just be on a platform in the order description or it be on a contract that you create, put down every single detail. If they discuss something, write it down and include it. And include what you were saying in your conversation before the contract. Include everything, because when it's delivered, if they say, oh no, that's not what I wanted, or you were actually supposed to write this many words, if you already have it in writing and accepted by both parties that it's supposed to be something else, you will get what you deserve. However, if you do not protect yourselves, there are people who will look for those little loopholes to screw you over, because so many people want free work or they want work to claim as their own. So you need to be super careful. It's not fun when you work for months on something. Yes, I worked months on something and then I didn't get the payment. So learn about the platforms you're using. I like to join Facebook groups to see what everyone is saying and how to handle certain situations. Definitely a recommendation. So number 5 is you need to learn taxes and business expenses and how that works for your area. Taxes and business expenses and self-employed income change based on where you are, based on what you're doing and how much you're making, all that. Learn what you can, and this might mean meeting with a financial advisor, looking for somebody who is experienced and can give you some tips, or doing your due diligence and contacting someone who can give you the right answers. You have to report your taxes, so you want to make sure that you are not doing that incorrectly. You want to make sure you're doing it right. So track everything that you can. And business expenses, you can save a little bit of money with these. Really track everything that you're spending money on. Even if you track things that you can't use, at least you have it wrote down for the potential that it can be. So just track everything. Number 6 is something I've already kind of talked about, but it's a harsh reality that you have to realize when you are in any kind of business taking clients. People will take advantage of you if you let them. If you lowball yourself, I'm talking about myself, I do this all the time. If you're telling people you will give them a price that is super low because you just want to work with them and you think that like they could really use the help, and you know, you're making up this scenario, they have a family to feed, like they can't really afford this, they're gonna agree. If you're buying a shirt that's $20 and the cashier says, you know what, you look like, $5 budget works for you. Would you not take the $5? When would you ever pay the $20? Unless you have money to actually burn and throw away, you are not going to not take a discount. Did I say that right? Not going to not take it? You know what I meant. If you leave loopholes, if you don't value yourself, people are not going to value you and they're going to take advantage of you, and that's not fair. So you really need to protect yourself. And when you turn clients away, other ones will come that fit your budget. If you have a client and you don't fit their budget, ask them what their budget is and offer them a reduced package. If you write a blog, maybe you reduce the amount of words. If you create graphics, reduce the amount of graphics that you create, things like that, to fit into their budget if you do want to reach a compromise. They have to understand that this is your time and your livelihood, and if they don't understand that, then they probably shouldn't be hiring freelancers until they get a reality check. Sass the sass. It's all on you. So number 7, it's all on you. Unless you have already started outsourcing and building a team, it's just you. And that is empowering, it's exciting, and it is scary as hell. You have to be ready for handling last minute tasks, last minute changes, difficult clients, great clients that just want more from you. You have to make sure you have systems in place, trackers in place, accountability, self-discipline, because this is all on you. If you want to be self-employed, you have to remember that self is about you. You don't have an HR, you don't have someone to run to, you don't have someone to pass the work off on. It's just you. And if you want to be a freelancer and you can't handle that, then maybe you should look into starting like an agency or outsourcing, or just build a little team. Get a VA, Next is the hardest pill to swallow probably. So number 8 is you have to be patient for growth. When you start freelancing, unless for some reason people already know you and already want your services and are lining up for it, it's going to take time, because until you can build a portfolio or build this trail of good reviews, people aren't going to know if they can trust you. People don't know you. You have to let people in and see what you're about, and you can only do that when you've got some work behind you. It's really easy to say after like 3 months, I'm not where I want to be, I've only had a couple orders, and you give up. If you want to be a full-time freelancer, you cannot give up. You have to keep pushing, you have to keep creating more opportunities for income, you have to play to your strengths, you have to go out there and look for clients. You have to put yourself on multiple platforms. You have to create your own little agency maybe. You have to be patient, and you have to be willing to work for the growth. That's just it. I think people try to compare freelancing to drop shipping. Like, you know how people promote drop shipping, like quick way to get money, like you're gonna be rich overnight, sell that NFT. Unless your freelancing service is unique, really expensive, and a lot of people want it right away, it's gonna be slow growth. Not saying you can't have fast growth, but you have to be ready to wait. Number 9 is probably the downside and scary side, is it's unstable and inconsistent income. When you work a traditional job with a contract, you have a salary. You don't have a salary when you're freelancing. Even if you have a returning client, unless you have a contract, they can easily say, next month, I don't think I need you anymore. You have to be ready for the highs and the lows. That's why I think you should get into freelancing before you commit to working it full time. Like if you're working another job, maybe start freelancing on the side, even a little bit, just to build up some reviews, and then you might have a better shot when you go full time. It's not consistent income, you're not guaranteed. It's about how many clients you get. And listen, sometimes it shoots for the stars and there's so many clients lining up, and then sometimes it's crickets. I think people say, well, I've heard people say that December and January are kind of slow because it's the holidays and then, you know, money, things like that. December and January were crazy for me. That was the most traffic I've gotten since I started. I don't think you should base these inconsistencies off of what other people are seeing. I think you need to give yourself a year, track everything, and see how it's growing and changing, and that will be unique to the service you're offering. But it's something to check because it's something to consider, because at the end of the day, you have to pay your bills. If you're not getting freelancing from like March to June for some reason, you need to plan for that. This is from me to me, number 10. How much are you really making when you consider fees, taxes, expenses, and time? If you are pricing your freelancing services at $5, because I did when I started, and a lot of people do. If you're using a platform, they take a fee from that. If you're transferring your money from like PayPal to your bank, that's a fee. If you had to pay monthly for like a graphic design service, that's an expense. You have to pay taxes on this income. And did you spend 3 hours on a $5 project? You're in the negative. You're in the negative. That's a hard realization when you price yourself. Obviously, like I said, you have to start low to get high, usually. But when you start moving up high, you have to be able to take that risk on yourself and price yourself higher. It matters, okay? It matters what you're spending for the software or capabilities to do it, the fees you have to pay, the taxes you have to pay, the time you're spending. You have to value yourself, and you have to figure out how much your service should cost. And sometimes it doesn't mean you have to raise the price. Sometimes it means you need to lower the expenses. Maybe you need to take it off a platform so they don't take fees from you. Or maybe you need to figure out how you can do it quicker, things like that. It's just something you have to consider, and that's my final tip for you. So if you have any other questions about freelancing, you want me to dive into any of those or anything like that, leave me a comment. You can follow me on Instagram, subscribe and like, and yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Bye.